Can you hear me now? Can you?
Can you hear me now? Hey there. Why yes, I got a new microphone, how could you tell? So funny story. During my 9-hour-long marathon of recording gameplay for these theory videos, and yes, I'm not joking, I spent over 9 hours replaying the entire game. I'm slowly going insane. I noticed a few interesting details. I always found it weird how strange Deltarune's menu is. That was going to be the main focus of this video, but about 2 weeks after starting this script, I realized most of it was just boring filler, so it got canned. That's also why this video took so long to make. Finding original topics is hard. Anyway, not all of that scrapped theory was a waste of time. There's one detail about Deltarune's menu which I haven't heard mentioned before. Personally, I thought this deserved a video on its own anyway, so I guess it worked out in the end. Today's video will be about the Great Door. Something I wasn't expecting to see were separate menu screens for each chapter. They each have their own song, along with their own background. The first chapter isn't that surprising. Chris, Susie, and Ralsei standing in front of a fountain. Not much explanation necessary for this one. This is by far one of the most popular pieces of official artwork for the game. It's even used as the Steam library background. It's essentially this image from Undertale. So it appears that each chapter will have a menu background, depicting some kind of big event that occurs in said chapter. So what could Chapter 2 have as its background? Queen's Mansion? Maybe Castle Town? Wait. What is that? Is that the Great Door? That's strange. The Great Door has barely been mentioned in the game. In fact, it wasn't mentioned at all in Chapter 2. The only dialogue related to it is a reminder that it will most likely never open again. So why is this the menu background for Chapter 2? Is Toby trying to tell us something here? Or am I simply looking too deep into things? Most likely, but I'm going with it anyway. There's a very obvious and reasonable answer to this, which is that these menu backgrounds are just random pieces of artwork with no greater meaning behind them. But that's the boring answer, and if you ask me, the less believable one. Toby never does things by accident. Unless it comes to flipping sprites, but that's not the point. There has to be some bigger meaning here. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's start by explaining what exactly the Great Door is, since most people probably forgot about it after their first playthrough. The Great Door is that big door that Ralsei closes. Yeah, that's about it. This door serves almost no purpose in the game, which I always found strange. It's depicted as this big, important door, and yet it barely has any relevance to anything. Aside from this one small appearance in Chapter 1, it's never mentioned again. You can visit it in Chapter 2, but there's not much to see. I refuse to believe this door has absolutely no purpose. Is there anything else we know about this thing? Well, it seems to have a light world counterpart. This door that connects the supply closet to the unused classroom. Yes, I know I called it the abandoned classroom last time, same thing. Anyway, I think we can all agree that this door is supposed to be the Great Door. It connects the supply closet to the abandoned classroom, just like the Great Door connects Castle Town to Card Kingdom. This backs up my theory that the unused classroom has been a dark world for much longer than we think. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Let's back up for a moment, and start by examining the door itself. Visually, there isn't much. The Deltarune symbol is depicted on it, but that doesn't mean much. I'm more interested in the name. The use of the word great implies that this door existed for quite some time. There are several definitions of the word great in this context, but I'm going with this one for now. If the use of the word great is supposed to imply the door is very old, then the next question is obvious. How old is it? Dates aren't exactly common in these games, so an exact answer is essentially impossible. Let's make the question more specific. Has the Great Door existed longer than Card Kingdom? In my last video, I mentioned the possibility of both Card Kingdom and Cyber City having existed much longer than we think. Since we see neither of these two areas before they become dark worlds, it's entirely possible that they were both transformed before the player even created their vessel. Going by this logic, could they have existed long enough for the Great Door to be considered great? There's another possibility, which is that the great simply refers to the door's size. If that's the case, that makes this entire last section pointless. There is another area in Card Kingdom which has great in its name, and it just happens to serve the exact same purpose. So is that it? Are these great rooms nothing more than small transition areas between zones? Maybe, but I think it's worth mentioning that Toby originally intended the Great Board to be much longer, so I don't think that's it. So did I just waste everyone's time? Is there really nothing to this door? No, there has to be something worth mentioning. Some kind of lead. Wait, I got it. We know what this thing is, and what purpose it serves, but not who built it. Now I know what you're probably thinking. Isn't the Great Door supposed to be the door between the closet and classroom? Isn't that like the only thing we can be certain about? Well, yeah, I'm not denying that, but just for funsies, let's examine the architecture once more. The Deltarune symbol. Where else have we seen that before? In Undertale, quite a few times, in Deltarune. Surprisingly, not a lot. Or at least not as much as I was expecting. We know Ralsei is heavily associated with this symbol, but what about a Lightner? What about Gerson? Oh. Him. I've actually tried avoiding a lot of stuff to do with Gerson. Truthfully, I never saw him as that important of a character. He just seemed like a random shopkeeper in Undertale, but clearly Deltarune is trying to depict him as something greater. So since he clearly plays a larger role than I originally thought, could he be connected to the Great Door in any way? He was one of the few characters in Undertale to know about the Deltarune. This also seems true in Deltarune, since the symbol can be seen on top of the church, and also the gate leading to the graveyard. Wait a minute. Take a look at that gate. It's pretty big, some might even consider it a great gate. It has the Deltarune symbol on it. The shape also matches up. Sadly the color is different, but still, that's a lot of similarities. And hey, maybe the gold color simply got scraped off after a while, who knows? Anyway, I'm not implying this gate is supposed to be the Great Door, but it does possibly tie it to Gerson. What else do we know about him? We know in Undertale, he was known as the Hammer of Justice. Hammer might possibly imply he was a good builder, although in Undertale, it probably refers to a blacksmith. Let's focus more on Deltarune Gerson instead. According to his tombstone, he was a renowned historian, author, and teacher. His book Lord of the Hammer can also be found in the library. Once again that hammer thing. So we know he was a teacher, so it could be more than likely that he was somehow involved with the school's construction. At the very least, he most likely would have seen the unused classroom before it was abandoned. Maybe his passing is what made it go unused, who knows? My point is, out of all the Lightners I can think of that might have something to do with this classroom, Gerson is by far the biggest suspect. If he built this classroom, or at least taught in it, it's only natural to assume that he's involved with the Dark World. This actually ties back to my last video perfectly. In that video, I said this. There's still so much I want to talk about. How long has the Dark World from Chapter 1 really existed? If you think it's a fresh new Dark World, consider why that classroom was abandoned in the first place. Maybe it's because the person who created the Dark World works at the school, and therefore closed the classroom after creating the fountain. If Gerson discovered the Dark World, he could have easily sealed off that classroom. This could also explain a bit about Seam. In terms of personality, nature, and fourth wall breaks, Seam and Gerson are basically identical. Looks like I may have underestimated this tortoise after all. Well, that was a disaster. Sorry for this theory being kinda all over the place. I scrapped the original, and admittedly rushed this one a little. Turns out the Great Door might not be as interesting as I thought. This script was an absolute dumpster fire, so hopefully the next one won't be. Maybe I won't choose such a dry topic. Anyway, that's all I got for now. I'm gonna go lie down for another 4 weeks. Until next time, don't forget to like and subscribe.